Hello everyone, this is a behind the scenes / Q&A video for the two previous ones. In case you missed them, in these videos I used 32 fishing rods to send me and then a pig in a boat into the sky. We reached 4 kilometers with the players and 130 kilometers with the boat technique. In this video, I will try to give you details on how I did it and answer the question you asked in the comments. I don't expect you to be interested in everything, so feel free to use the chapters in the description to navigate to whatever you want to know. Without further ado, let's start with the first question. I created the bots using the Botcraft library. It is an open source project coded in C++. I will leave the link in the description. In a nutshell, I just started from the common chat example present in the repo, and I added new chat events corresponding to the words I said in the chat. For example, when the bots received the fish chat message, they knew they needed to use their fishing rod. And it was the same thing for all the other comments, which were actually pretty simple. Just use the item you have in your hand or move to a certain position. No, I didn't spend 1,000 euros on Minecraft accounts. I am using a local server in offline mode. This is an option you can set in your server.properties file that will allow anyone to connect with only a name. The server won't check if this name belongs to a real Minecraft account. But be extra careful when using it, as it also allows anyone to connect with the same name as an admin and do whatever they want on the server. When you are holding a fishing rod in Minecraft, you can right-click to send a fishing bobber. If this bobber touches an entity, it will hook to it. Then, if you right-click again, the fishing rod will apply an instant velocity to this entity equal to 10% of the distance between the player feet and the fishing bobber. The maximum distance is 32 blocks, resulting in a theoretical max speed of 3.2 blocks per tick or 64 blocks per second. This speed is additive. That means that if there are multiple fishing rods pulled at exactly the same tick, all the respective speeds will be transferred to the hooked entity, resulting in a massive instant impulse in a given direction. Well, there is technically no limit to the number of bots on the server. Actually, the server isn't even aware these bots are not real players, so the only limit is the max player count. However, the more bots you add, the more lag you will create on the server. And if the server TPS starts to decrease, then it will be more difficult to perfectly synchronize all the fishing rods in the same tick. But in case you are curious, here is a table with the theoretical height one could reach based on the number of bots in perfectly optimal conditions. This is the difference between the two videos. In the second one, the boat is first placed on a decorated pot, then I break it once the bots are in position to let it fall down on the ground before launch. This pot has two purposes. First, it prevents the bots to accidentally bump the boat when walking next to it. And the second reason is to optimize the launch speed as much as possible. On top of the launch pad, the bots are standing on sea pickles. With them, the distance between the bots and the boat at launch is 31.99 meters, very close to the 32 meters limit. The pot makes it possible for the bots to reach this optimal position, because without it, the line would break at the moment the bots climb on top of the pickle, but before they reach the final position at the center of the pickle. Yes, it did. I am currently at 1900 kilometers traveled by pig in the statistics. And I guess this might be a world record actually, because according to the wiki, this would take more than 5 full days to reach by just riding a pig on a flat terrain. Well, technically yes. If the bots are not directly above you, but in front of you instead, then the initial speed will have a horizontal component in addition to the vertical one. But the air drag for both the boat and the player would stop you pretty quickly, so I don't really see a case in which this would be better than just using elytras with rockets. This was definitely one of the most asked questions. In the first video, I used a mod called Bobby to slightly increase the render distance to something like 32 chunks. But given the speed and height, it ended up not being that noticeable in the video. So for the second video, I wanted to take things to the next level, something like at least 100,000 blocks view distance and up to 1 million if possible. This is technically not feasible with Bobby. As Bobby keeps all the chunks loaded, the game would quickly run out of memory. So I looked into another mod called Distant Horizons. Distant Horizons does things a bit differently. Instead of displaying all the chunks, it computes some approximate representation of them, and the farther the chunks are, the less detail they are rendered on the screen, saving a lot of memory while keeping a good FPS rate. There is a small issue though. Distant Horizons needs to first generate each chunk you want to display, and this is a very slow process. Assuming you have a super powerful computer that can generate 1000 chunks per second, the 1 million block render distance would still take 50 days to compute. And it was at this moment I realized I needed something else. I needed a custom mod to meet my very specific constraint. So I learned a bit of Java and how Fabric works, and then I started coding. The result I got at the end was not as generic as Distant Horizons, but it did exactly what I needed for the video. Let's see how it works. The first step is computing some approximate data of the world. To do so, I used the biome library. It is an open source C library that can very quickly generate biomes information based on the seed you are playing on. If you have used some tools to find structures or search for a certain biome given your seed, it's doing exactly the same kind of thing. And as it only generates the biomes, not the full world, it is very fast, several orders of magnitude faster than Minecraft world generation. Generating the data for the 1 million by 1 million block square took less than 10 minutes in total. Okay, now we have some data representing the world, we need to display them. To do so, I manually assigned a color to each biome in order to be as close as possible to real chunks seen from far away. Using this color map, the biome data can be transformed into a texture for which 1 pixel represents a certain area of the world. Depending on the precision you want, 1 pixel can be a 4x4 blocks or a full 16x16 chunks region. The next step we need to do is to display this texture in the world. To do so, I split the world around the player into areas, and for each area, we compute a different texture with a resolution depending on how far we are from the player. Once it's done, we can tell Minecraft renderer to render a plane at the correct location with the custom texture we just generated. So this is how I got this massive render distance. One thing to note here is that the renderer is totally flat. It's just a bunch of rectangles drawn in the world. Biome can return a rough height map estimate, but I didn't want to bother using it to render the terrain with fake 3D, as from this height anyway, the illusion is already pretty good, and you wouldn't be able to really tell the difference because Minecraft mountains are not very tall anyway. Okay, so it's been quite a journey from learning Java basic stuff to having the mod fully working just from a 5-minute video, but I think the result looks pretty cool. I don't intend to share this mod as it was my first one and it will probably have a lot of bugs and break in any other case than this specific one I used it for. But if someone with more modding experience than me wants to do it, I think I gave all the information they need to redo it properly. As I had to learn how to code a mod for the 1 million blocks render distance thing, I thought it would also be cool to have a proper display for the altitude and speed. So I got back to Fabric documentation, checked how to render some text on the screen, and voila. After 1 hour, I got something After 2 hours, I got something working. There are the pale blue dots on the ground. This is vanilla Minecraft terrain generation and it doesn't really create big oceans as we do have on Earth. But keep in mind that they are still several kilometers large and they just appear small from this height. It looks exactly like that. The same but with larger biomes. What did you expect exactly? And that's it. I think I've covered pretty much everything. Feel free to leave a comment if you still have some questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe and all the usual YouTube stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!